Tuesday, like we mentioned, and that means it's time for a Throwback Thursday. Joining me today is Lori Kent with the Local Lou podcast.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yes, I know. We got to work on that parking spot for you.
We do. Yeah, I like the bedazzled idea and definitely a little historical marker.
We'll kind of make it a little mix of both.
Yeah, right.
That encapsulates you perfectly.
Thank you.
Tell us what we're talking about today.
Well, you know, Bailey, it's a season of giving, so I thought it'd be fun for us to look at a historical marker that celebrates people that gave like so much to our community. So right off of 10th and Cliff, which you're probably thinking, isn't that a drugstore in a parking lot? It is, okay, but there's a historical marker, and the historical marker tells us about when it was at one time the Children's Home Society of South Dakota. Now, this was an amazing organization, and it still is an amazing organization, so it's still around, but what's amazing is we're talking about this started in 1893, and it is like one of the first nonprofits in the state of South Dakota. We're not just talking about Sioux Falls. And don't let that picture with the snow scare you. It was from last year. So this is a pretty new historical marker. It was just dedicated in 2022, and it talks all about how the Children's Home Society of South Dakota begins and how it progressed through the years. So it starts out small, but the need was so big, it just grew and grew and grew. So there were no laws protecting children at the time, which is a dangerous thing. And so you have these people that banded together, and it takes a village. This village happened to be led by Elizabeth and William Sherrard. They're a husband and wife, and they're going to have two really different roles in this. So William is out there, he's pounding the pavement, he's telling everybody he can tell about the need. We need to keep these children safe, we need to rehome them, we need to care for them, we need to give them a chance to have a great future. And we also need funding. We need so much funding. And his wife Elizabeth, she does everything else. She's feeding, clothing, loving, caring for these children. She's making them clothes. She's doing everything to ensure that they feel loved and cared for when they're with them, and hopefully finding them forever homes. If not, then temporary homes, because sometimes these children, they're given up not because they're abused or neglected, but because their family cannot afford to keep them. And so they might not need somebody to adopt the child forever, but they might need somebody for a little while because they've hit hard times. So they, when they first get to Sioux Falls, we have a women's organization, we have a couple other charity organizations that come together. They rent a house for the Sherrards, they fill it with furniture and food and clothing, and they're like, here, use this as your home base to help these children. But again, this need is ginormous, like so much more than they thought. And they're not just servicing Sioux Falls, this is the state of South Dakota. Like, everybody's involved. The railroad is giving them free tickets so they can get more children here, and they're just everybody is doing their part to take care of these kids. And so by 1901, William has secured some funding to get a home built, and that's going to go on 10th and Cliff. What's interesting about this is the stone ends up being quarried by the prisoners at the prison, and so it's stone from the falls by prisoners that builds this house, and people refer to it as the House of Stone. It's really cool looking, and I love that the historical marker, it doesn't just like let you envision it, you can see it on the historical marker. They have a picture, and so it's cool to see what used to be there. But it doesn't last forever. And so for decades, this house is there and it's serving all these kids. You know, Elizabeth, she spends the rest of her life dedicated to this passion. And she's 78 years old when she dies in 1908. The cause does not die with her. It grows and grows and grows. And so in 1968, the house closes, not because it's not useful, it's just they have so many more kids than they can fit in this house. And so they moved to another location, and they weren't able to repurpose this place. And so it gets destroyed in 1973, and then comes along drugstore and parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, but the Children's Home Society of South Dakota still exists today. They have a great historical talk tonight that's put on by the Minnehaha County Historical Society, and it talks about the 131-year history, so past, present, future.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's
going to be
amazing.
interesting. Where's that at then?
It's actually going to be at the society itself, which is off Sycamore Avenue north of Washington High School.
Awesome. Well, glad we have a historical marker there too. Just
Me
to
too.
have that memory kind of alive still. So.
I agree, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Lori.
Thank you.
And stick around, we have more after the break.